Hey there, it's Pete with GCI Turf. I hope you're having a great day today. I am super pumped and super excited to make an announcement. I am now an official TurfWare dealer. So what that means is you can go to a product page on the website and read all about the 460 or the 460 XL, the GCI TurfWare spray boom, the drop-in hopper, the dual hopper setup, any of the accessories that they offer, and I'm now able to offer them to you. So this wasn't, planned out to be this way. It just kind of happened over the course of the past 4 years of being on YouTube and growing my online business, and things just kind of escalate and things happen. And I run across the TurfWare machine about 4 years ago, and we've had 4 of them for that time period. And I realize everybody's got their own opinion on different machines. I'm completely fine with that. I'm not going to dare knock your opinion, but I have my own opinion as well. And I believe after owning pretty much all the ride-on spreader sprayers out there, the TurfWare has absolutely got to be my favorite so far. And that is why I went ahead and attached my name to the brand to become a dealer. I'm gonna get around to it here in the next week or so and make a dedicated specific video on the 460 versus the 460 XL to show you all the differences between the two. But for now, this video is on how to install the GCI TurfWare spray boom. I went to the guys at TurfWare and I said, look, I love boomless nozzles. They're wonderful, but I'm a spray boom guy. I really like the accuracy of a spray boom a little better. So we kind of went to the drawing board, and this is what we landed with. It's an exceptionally well-built product, made in America by Americans, and I just absolutely love it. The thing works flawlessly on the TurfWare platform. So if you already have a TurfWare and you're interested in the spray boom itself, that along with a link to the actual machines to a product page will be in the description below. So like I said, this is going to be the installation video, putting the boom on the sprayer. I actually did it one night in my garage, so the settings are a little bit different than you're seeing now. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how to calibrate the spray boom. And if anybody's looking for calibrating a machine, a backpack sprayer, calibration isn't specific to a machine. It's a process you go through to determine how to set your machine up to tell it what to do. You're in charge of the machine. You tell the machine what to do as far as how much material to put on the ground. And so calibration applies as like a blanket cover to all types of different spraying machines, devices, backpack sprayers, anything. The process you get to find out what the calibration is, or to set the calibration, is the exact same. First and foremost, I want to apologize for the setting. I'm in my garage. It's rainy outside, yucky, and I just couldn't get this video made at any other time. So I wanted to hurry up and get it made for you to show you how to install a TurfWare GCI spray boom. Now, as you can see, this is a completed job. It's already on, it's plumbed, it's ready to go, but I'm going to take the boom back off. Where I have it mounted, I'm not sure I really like that. And then after speaking with TurfWare, I think the boom needs to come out just a little bit. So bear with me. I'm just going to take this back off, and I'm going to re-drill some holes and kind of redo the boom installation, and then we'll pick up on the plumbing and how to get all that set up. Now you can see right here this little bit of a gap in between this bend right here and where the spray boom kind of angles back. I think I want to take this point and move it up even with that. That will move the spray boom out just a touch. I have spoke to TurfWare, and we're going to try to get it set up to where all the machines that leave the factory have the 2 holes already installed. So if you just bought a new TurfWare, that might already be here where you don't have to drill holes. And then again, if it doesn't pan out, you'll have to drill your holes yourself. Okay, so I'm gonna do this without a template, and you should be getting a template with your boom, so to make this considerably easier. And the template is basically going to line up with this curved edge right here, and you're gonna butt the end piece of it right here on the corner. You can see I've taken a marker and I've drawn a line right here in this bend where it comes around the front and kind of goes down the side. You want to get right in the middle of that bend right there. Now this isn't the exact template you'll get, but I'm going to line it up right here as if it were. And you can see how I'm butting that straight edge of the template right up against that bend where I've got my line. Now you don't have to draw a line on yours. I'm just doing that to show you so you can visualize this a little better. But your template should have a curve in it on the bottom. You'll hold that template up against the side plate here, and you'll line it up with this curve, and you'll let the end of it butt up against this bend right here. It should be something like that. Once you do that, you simply take a Sharpie, draw out your holes where the holes are in the template, and then you can start drilling. Now this is some really hard stainless steel, so you can get some really, really high quality step bits. Or these come from Lowe's. These are their gold DeWalt bits. And you're gonna need 3 or 4 of them because you wanna start the hole off small, drill all the way through, then move up to a next size, next size, and next size. You wanna do that until you get to a 3/8 inch hole size, and that'll be your final bit. Is 3/8 inch. Now you'll want to punch this. Okay, you can use a traditional punch. That's probably what I should be using, but I don't have one here at the house, so I'm just going to use a drill bit. I'm going to make sure that is dead center, because if you're off a little bit on this, it's going to show on your boom. And then I'm going to give it a little tap. And I'm going to get that hole started right there with a punch. The reason for that is if you just try to drill without punching a hole, your drill bit might try to slide around and dance around on you. So again, this is some pretty hard metal right here, so you really want to take your time with this. You can see I'm starting off with a smaller bit. I'm going to make sure that starts off in my hole punch. Now you might want to use a little cutting oil or something like that, but I found that if you step this thing up from a small bit up to the 3/8, you shouldn't really need any. Now I'm going to go up another size. You can see if you do that a little bit at a time, instead of trying to drill the hole all at one time, it goes a lot easier. You won't burn up a bit either. And now I'm at my 3/8. And then just to check, you can make sure your bolt goes in with no problem. I'm going to repeat that and drill my other hole here, and then I'm going to go on the other side and do that, and we'll be ready to mount the boom. Again, I just want to remind you that I'm kind of redoing the mount and doing it in a different location, because I feel like it's best. And you know, the boom wasn't hooked up when I mounted it originally, but I just left it hooked up when I'm remounting it. So I don't want you to get confused. You don't do that part first, you mount the boom first. Now once you get your holes drilled, I found it's best just to set your 2 bolts, 2 nuts, and 2 washers on one tire, and then do the same for the other. And I'm on a little stool right here, and I'm balancing the boom on my knees to kind of help me hold it up. And I'm basically just going to run my bolt in right there, and then I'm going to grab the other side, go ahead and put it in as well. And that way it'll just kind of help you hold it. Then you can get a nut and a washer and go in from the bottom side and put those on. Now you don't want to tighten them up yet. You want to wait and get all 4 nuts and bolts on and started before you go to tightening anything down. So I've got the first 2 in. Now I'm putting the back 2 in. I'm going to double check where I've got it at. Everything looks nice and even and squared up. I have found that a ratchet style wrench like this, you know, it's got the what's that, the open end on one end, box end on the other, but it ratchets. I found that that works good. You could probably get a 1/4 inch drive socket, a little short socket up in there, but I prefer this myself. Now all you gotta do is go in from the bottom side and tighten them down. And now your boom should be nice and secure. Now let's check it. Let's pivot it and twist it just to make sure we have clearance between the end of the boom and the spray tank. Plenty good over here. And plenty good over there. That was the reasoning that I changed the mount position, just so you are aware. When I mounted it back a little further, when I would close the boom, the end of the boom would come in contact with the spray tank. That's no good. So as you can see, that looks really good right there. No worries on that coming in contact with the tank. And now that the boom is nice and secure and bolted down, we're gonna go back here and work on the plumbing. So at this point, we're gonna go ahead and put our springs on, and there's 2 of these, one on each side of the boom where it pivots in and out. You should have 2 of these springs. It's very simple. You're gonna take this little eyelet right here and basically just slip it on around this bolt. It may be a little bit tight, but you can see how that goes on pretty easily. Then take a pair of needle nose pliers, grab the other end, hold on to it tight, give it a little pull, and clip it on the other bolt, and you're good to go. What that does is create a little tension on the boom when you open and close it, so that if you're riding, if it didn't have this pressure, you know, pulling it forward, the thing would just fly back. So this is kind of what holds it in this straight position here. So now we're going to get into the plumbing, and we're going to plumb the boom into our controls on the dash. And you see you have a wide spray option, trim spray, or wand spray. Now in my opinion, I think this is personal preference. You can plumb it into any of these that you want. I chose the trim spray to tap into to connect my boom. The reason for that is this is the one I use the least of, meaning the majority of the time if I'm spraying, I'm gonna be using the wide spray. It is super rare for me to use the trim spray, but I'll leave that up to you. You can decide which one of these you want to tap into. But again, for my personal preference, I chose the trim spray. There's 2 cutoff valves, one on the boom and then one in the line to whichever one of these you choose to tap into. If I'm gonna go from boom to one of these, I just want the one I use the least of, because I'm gonna use the boom quite often, like all the time. Yeah, there still may be a need for me to use the wide spray or the trim spray, but the overwhelming majority of the time, I'm gonna be using the boom. It just makes sense for me to plumb into my trim line because that's the one I use the least. Now I'm up under the dash of the machine, and you can see this is the 3-way selection valve control right here. Over here's my wand spray, trim spray in the middle, and then here's my wide spray on the outside edge. What I'm gonna do is, since I'm using my trim spray, is I'm gonna find where it comes out right here, and I'm gonna follow the line all the way down. I'm just gonna take my finger here and run it along the spray hose and go all the way down. And as I go down right here, I'm gonna follow that hose all the way down. And you can see right here, this is where I've actually already installed. This is the boom hose right here. And I'm going into my trim spray line right here, and I've put a T-fitting and a cutoff below, And now I'll go back and I'll show you exactly how I installed those. You can see right here where TurfWare has mounted a brace right here and drilled a bunch of holes in it. That way it keeps the hoses separated and organized. Well, from this plate, you want to go up roughly 3 to 4 inches. And you're going to make your mark, and that's where you're going to make your cut. You don't want to go too low on that because you have to actually grab this hose to be able to hold it to install the cutoff valve. So let me show you how to do that part. So at this point, we're ready to install 2 fittings. One is a cutoff valve, one is a T-fitting. Now I have the spot spray system on mine, and the power wire just so happens to run right in front of the line I need to cut. So I'm gonna unplug it and get those out of the way so I don't cut my power wire to my spot sprayer. Now at this point, I'm gonna double check and triple check this line to make sure I'm cutting into the right line. You can see my mark here. I'm gonna follow it all the way back up, and it is going into the middle valve, which is my trim spray valve. The orientation of this is the cutoff valve is going to go below the T. So the cutoff valve is gonna go in first, and then the T is gonna go above it. And it's always good to kind of hold them up here to kind of see exactly where they're gonna be at. And as you can see, my mark is just a little bit high where I marked. So I estimated wrong. So I'm gonna cut just a little bit below that. About an inch below that should be about right. Now the gap between the T and the cutoff valve is going to be very, very minimal. You don't want them to actually be touching, maybe 1/4 of an inch roughly in between the two. You want a good clean cut on this hose, so it doesn't matter what you use as long as it's really sharp. A good pair of scissors, pipe cutters. I'm actually using a pair of hand pruners here to make my cut because they're nice and sharp. You want that cut to be really clean so that when you put your hose back on, it seats up against the cutoff valve flush. Another important thing is you want to make sure you don't cut this down too low, because you're going to have to get your hand in here and hold that while you install the cutoff valve. There we go, a nice clean cut. Yes, that's just water running out. Now you're going to take a hose clamp and go ahead and put that on the bottom part of the hose. Do not tighten it yet. Now this is another thing that is personal preference on which way the on-off valve turns, okay? If you flip it over, it's going to turn to the inside, like so. See how that turns to the inside of the machine? Or if you have it the other way, it's going to turn to the outside of the machine. I personally like it better turning to the outside of the machine, so when it's off, the valve is closest to me. Take it and get a good grip on the bottom hose like that. And I've always found that when installing a fitting, if I push in and twist a little bit, it tends to go on there really, really nicely. Now you can see how I've left this cutoff valve kind of facing toward the opening in the machine so that I can easily reach it. I don't want the cutoff valve on the back side because that would be really hard to get it. So orientate the cutoff valve in such a way that it's easy for you to get to. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my T-fitting and I'm just going to kind of hold it where it should be. I'm going to kind of eyeball this and hold it up here like this. Remember, I want about 1/4 of an inch or so in between the cutoff valve and the T. I don't want them touching each other. You can see these T's right here have a little lip on them right here, and that's where I'm actually measuring to, the lip, because I want the hose to slide all the way up and butt up against that lip. So you can see I've got that, and I'm just kind of gently holding it against the hose, and I'm gonna come right here and I'm gonna make me a mark. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna double check my mark to make sure it's absolutely spot on. Then I'm gonna take my cutters. I can pull this hose out while I can get to it. I'm gonna take my cutters and go ahead and cut the hose again. If you're gonna be left with a little piece of hose, don't throw that away. You're going to need it. Now what I'm gonna do is take another hose clamp and go on the hose I just cut, slide it up, and go ahead and install my T. Be sure as you're pushing it up, you can kind of twist it a little bit. These things are snug, so you're gonna have to work it a little bit to get it up in there. Now, this is another important step. You want to orientate the T in such a way so that when you bring your spray boom hose up, it easily plugs into it. What I mean by that is if you leave your T pointing away from it, you can't get your hose over to it, okay? So you want to make sure that almost in the same orientation as your cutoff valve, you want it kind of in line with that, but slightly to one side or the other, because you don't want this hose getting in your way when you're activating the cutoff valve. So now what I'm gonna do is take this little short piece of hose. I'm gonna go ahead and install it on the cutoff valve. Like so. Remember to double check the orientation of your cutoff valve so it doesn't get out of whack. Now you can see my hose is just a little bit too long, so I've got to trim off just another little bit of it. Now this is important right here. You don't want to cut the little hose that you just put on, don't cut it too short. You would much rather it be a touch too long because you can always take a little bit off, but you can't put it back on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna line these up like so, get me a good measurement. Wherever the lip of the T lines up, I'm gonna cut about a 1/2 inch above that. Like I said, I wanna make sure I have enough hose to get a secure connection. So I'm gonna come in here and cut this little portion of hose off like that. Now before you connect these two, you need to go in and put your 2 of your hose clamps on, because you're gonna need one for the top and one for the bottom. Now, if you by chance forget to put the hose clamps on during the process, it's okay. These spread apart really easily, like so, and then you can just work it around the hose like that if you have to. I just find it a little easier to go and put them on while you're doing it. I'm gonna grab the bottom hose securely, grab the top one, get my hose clamp out of the way, and then I'm gonna grip and I'm gonna twist this back and forth while I'm pushing them together. Look at there. Look how nice that looks. Nice and clean. All my hose is butted up against the flange on the T and on the cutoff. Nice and neat and professional looking. Last part of hooking up the hose is you want to hook up the hose that comes from the spray boom. Now this is again a little bit of personal preference. The hose, you can simply plug it in if you want. You're gonna have a little bit of slack. I like mine a little bit tighter than what comes from the factory. So right here against the frame, I'm actually gonna kind of hold it up against the frame, and then I'm gonna kind of tighten it up a little bit and hold it against the T-fitting where I would cut it. And I'm actually using my thumb as a marker, and I'm gonna go about 1/4 inch above where the actual cut would be. And you can see I've got my thumb to mark the spot. Just gonna take my marker right here and mark that. Then again, I'm gonna double check. I always double check and triple check my cuts, because once I cut it, it's a done deal. So I'm gonna hold some pressure up against the frame back here. Then I'm gonna hold this over and kind of bend it in the orientation it would go. Hold that up right there. I am very satisfied with the way that looks, so I'm gonna make my cut. Don't forget a hose clamp. Slide that on. Then get you a good firm grip back here behind your T-fitting. And you want to push this on and give it a little twist. You're now connected. Now what we need to do is go back and tighten down all of our hose clamps. This is incredibly simple to do. Take you a pair of channel lock pliers. You can actually get it started with your finger. And this is what it's gonna look like up close. You're gonna grab the 2 ends with the channel lock pliers and squeeze, and you can hear how it's locking into place. Now don't go crazy with this. Don't put the smack down on it and break your hose clamps. You know, you want to get it snug, but don't get it overly tightened. I always like to orientate my hose clamps where I can get to them easily. So I'm gonna leave that one right there. Come right in here, clamp That one's done. And the hose clamps will go right up against that same collar on the T-fitting. So you want them kind of tight together. Get up in here, get it lined up with one hand, tighten it down with the other. Then I'm going to tighten the ones at my cutoff valve. Don't forget this one at the very bottom. It's probably resting against the frame and you'll need to pull it up. Get it started with my hand. And then get my channel locks up in here. Tighten that one down. Don't forget this last one that goes to your boom. Then I'm gonna come in here with my channel locks and finish it off. If you have the spot sprayer, don't forget to come back in here and plug it back up. Now to try and give you a close-up view of this, you can see the cutoff valves at the bottom. I've got a little short piece of hose. That hose is about 2 inches long. And then I've got my T right here. And then I've got my hose going up to my trim spray valve. Now for any particular application you're getting ready to make, you need to make up your mind of whether you're going to use the boom sprayer or the trim nozzle, because that's where we plumbed it into. So obviously that's your master switch. You can cut that on and off to activate either the spray boom or the trim nozzle. But before I do that, I need to come down here and either cut one of two valves off. If I'm going to use my spray boom, I need to cut this valve we just installed off. And then the valve that comes with the spray boom, I'm going to cut that on. Once I do that, I can control the spray boom with this lever only. If I want to use my trim nozzle, I need to cut this valve on. And then I need to come over here and cut the flow off to my spray boom. Then I can control the flow to my trim nozzle right here. So again, I'm super pumped about this. I'm so excited to represent such a killer brand. The machine is almost bulletproof, in my opinion. It's built like an army tank. And that was honestly probably the main reason that we've stuck with the TurfWare for so long, is because they don't break. And I like that. I like for my guys, I like for myself to be efficient while we're in the field. I don't want machines sitting in the corner that's not running, not making me any money. The fact that the thing is built so well, that's really the main selling point of the machine for me personally. But it actually works too, and it works dang good. So we'll get into some of that in some future videos and in some comparison between this one and the larger model. So hey, I hope you learned something. And as always, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch. I'll check you later.